Welcome back to DAGryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. It's time to talk a little bit more about progress on the layout and 3D printed buildings. In my last layout update video, I did a bit of talking about the middle section of the layout, the little yard that I put there, and the engine house that I'm working on. I had initially tried to 3D print that engine house, but it just turned out to be too big to accomplish on my printer. Since then, I've been looking for other buildings that I can print, if not in full O scale, at least close to it. I'm not too concerned about the buildings I print being true scale because most of my trains aren't scale anyway. So as long as they're close, I'm pretty happy with that. And if I can get the ones that I can print scale closer to the front and the ones that are scaled down a little bit further back, that might just help create an illusion of depth, especially in sections where the layout's not that deep. That middle section certainly isn't done, but I feel much better about the way it's heading. The back corner over here is not really a top priority. I have a couple of those buildings back there and it gives the good illusion of a city, and I'm going to just kind of leave that as is for now until I get kind of like the front middle section of the layout taken care of. Then I'll worry about that being a little further back. Like any other hobby, 3D printing gets a little addictive, especially once you work through any problems that you might have. And I'm finding the desire to continue to print buildings, even though I have no idea where I'm going to put them. One of the buildings I've been working on is a train station. And this is, I think it's scale. If it's not scale, it's very, very close. And that just fit on the printer. The roof I had to print standing up because it wouldn't fit across the bed. So it's a little wonky, but I don't think you're really going to be able to tell once it's all painted and in place. And I'm really enjoying the process of finding these files online, adapting them to fit for my needs, and then printing them and see how it works out. I don't know, I just think it's really cool to be like, you know, instead of spending $100 for a house, I can print it. And maybe it costs me $15 for the filament to print it. Yes, there's the cost of the printer and everything else. That's spread out over everything I print, and I've printed stuff for many uses, not just the trains. So really the cost of printing comes down to how much filament you use. So the train station, maybe about 10 bucks, and some old craft paint, and that's gonna pretty much do it for it. And the window glass, I'm using plastic from some old Lionel boxes that really weren't worth saving. Got the plastic out, cut it to fit, and it does the job. Oh, a couple more bucks worth of cheap LEDs I'll use for interior lighting. Working on painting that station got me to think about painting that Hobo Jungle Plasticville set that I had from a while back. Because really, it came in two colors, brown and gray, and that just really wasn't doing it for me. I don't know if what I've done is realistic, but it looks a heck of a lot better to me than it did before. This particular shed needs a little bit of touching up, another coat of paint on some of the parts, but I think that looks a lot better than it did out of the box. At least quite a bit more interesting. I don't know where this one's going, but that doesn't matter. I'll find a spot. Under the arch under bridge here, I got the leaning shack. Got the roof painted. It's supposed to be a wooden roof with metal over most of it. So I painted the metal and then painted the wood to match the body of the shed. And I'm pretty happy with the way this one's turned out. Tried to add, you know, moss and mildew and dirt and rust. And for a first attempt, I'm pretty happy with it. Especially when you look at something like the door that was molded in gray plastic and now it looks a little bit more like wood. Another change that I've made, and I can't really consider it a permanent change yet because it just occurred to me earlier today, is the removal of Turtle Mountain. Nothing set in stone. I was printing buildings and I trying to figure out where I can put them, and I thought, that might be a pretty cool spot to extend some of the industrial / town area. So Will it go that way? Will I put the mountain back? I don't know. Like I said, I just thought of this today, and the excitement of the new idea makes me think I'm going to keep it. But that excitement could wear off, and I might want my mountain back. So for the moment, the mountain's just over there, relaxing, safe in the corner, and maybe it will go back here, maybe it won't. Let's take a closer look at some of the spots I've been working on. So I've been working on my creek slash river slash train station slash shed under the bridge area. I'm not going to say that this is how it's going to stay, but I've been enjoying making little changes and seeing how it all fits together. In the back, you can see right back there that little Plasticville shed that I painted. So that's, I think I might put a flickering LED in there to just kind of give like the illusion of candle or poor electrical service, something to give it a little bit of animation and attention. In front of it, I'm thinking either a beat up pickup truck or some guys just hanging around out front. I have a set of figures that are sitting around a barrel playing checkers or something. Maybe I'll put those there. I'd originally bought those to do a hobo boxcar, but that kind of ended up turning into my Halloween boxcar, so they didn't get used for that. The spot where that shed is sitting, I added more foam to bring it up to a better level in relation to the top of the track. Kind of also want the feel that it's getting higher as it goes back. I did a few other changes. The bridge really hadn't been mounted. It was just sitting there, so now I have it mounted on a couple of wooden dowels that I just kind of glued in place, so the bridge sits on that. It really doesn't need to be strong enough to support the track since it's a solid piece of track across the whole opening, but it is nice that the bridge now touches the underneath of the track and that the bridge is kind of where it should be. I removed the culvert from two of the spots on the river, and I'm kind of just mocking up a girder of some sort. I wanted to make the river a little bit wider, and in doing so, it kind of made the culvert not really make sense. I don't know if the culvert will stay in the back. For the time being, I'm thinking culvert back there and then small girder bridges on the front too. I replaced the foam in this section here to kind of better facilitate really kind of designing the space. I realized in looking at it that the only way to get here was across this footbridge. How are they going to get stuff there? You know, so it needs access for a vehicle. So I'll probably have another dirt access road right back here where they can get stuff to the back of the hot dog stand. And then I'll just somehow work it all in so that it hopefully looks good. The stone house here is something I don't have a spot for yet. I'm having commitment issues with this roof. I kind of feel like it's oversized or, you know, just too thick. So I don't know what I'm doing with the roof. Despite the fact that I feel like I printed this whole thing a little too big. But I really kind of like it. I did some new things for me anyway. I got some broken glass in the window. I made the entryway step kind of worn down from years of use. And this was a gray print, but I also tried to add some texture and color with a lighter gray and a darker gray paint just to kind of add some depth. And, you know, the look of some dirt around the bottom of the stones. So I don't know exactly if I'm going to use this and where, but I do really like this print. And if I don't use this, maybe I'll print it a little bit smaller and do it a second time because it is kind of a neat building. Well, here we have what used to be Turtle Mountain. And maybe it will be Turtle Mountain again, maybe it won't. The building that got me thinking of doing away with the mountain is this one here. Trackside shipping type freight building. I don't recall if this is a full scale or a little bit smaller, but either way, it's a neat print. There's a lot more to it. And I started thinking, where am I going to put this? I want to kind of see it. That's when I thought of doing away with the mountain, putting it up top. Another thing I printed recently is this church. Still, again, a lot more to print for it, but at the moment, especially if I don't know if I'm going to use it, it doesn't seem to make sense to print a lot more pieces for it. You can see there's some hair sticking off the back. The printer seems to have trouble printing the horizontal siding without having some loose pieces, and I don't know if it's something I'm doing or if it's setting or what, but I'll figure it out. And even so, you can kind of heat gun that and kind of melt it all off, and it will be fine. On the upside, I think some of this will add to kind of a dilapidated look. So even though it wasn't done on purpose, I think it might turn out fine. This is something I probably won't use. I printed a oversized Frosty bar, and this was one of the earlier prints I did, and it's neat and I like it, but I don't know that it will go in the layout. I'd have to figure out where the transfer station, freight station would go. It could go right on the line there, or I could do a pretend switch and put it there and put a car in front of it. It's going to take some, sitting here and looking at it and moving it around a bit to really get a feel for whether or not I want it there or not. Since I'm 3D printing a station, I have this one that I had over there in the front that I could use somewhere up here. It's always good to have a train station. It gives the passenger train kind of a purpose. So maybe a few buildings and a street across the front and a side street and just some, detail of trees and whatnot. I would want something to block the view of the back, so maybe tall trees would do it. Something else that I've been really thinking a lot about, really thinking I should do, is a photo backdrop. I've seen how much depth they really add to a couple of layouts, and I'm really thinking it would be a great thing to do. Initially thought of just painting a backdrop, and that's why part of the wall is blue. A lot of it seems to have faded since I painted it. It would need at least a couple coats if I were to paint. But I'm really thinking that a nice photo backdrop would look fantastic. And I think it would do a lot for the layout overall. That photo backdrop would go all the way down this side, which is about 13 feet, and then from the corner all the way over to about where the Menards Bridge is. So that's something I would really like to strongly consider in the next couple months. So will Turtle Mountain be no more, and will there be buildings here? Like I said, it's new. It's a new idea. I've got to let it sit. I've got to run some trains by it. I've got to sit back and kind of just look at it and look at the layout as a whole to see what I really want to do. I definitely still have mountain. The corner, that pink part will probably come out at some point, especially if I do a photo backdrop. But the little mountain and tunnel behind the engine shed is definitely going to stay there, and I might make that quite a bit taller. But then, of course, I've got all this mountain over here. And regardless of what I do with an expansion, mountain's going to stay here. I still want that whole side to kind of go up all the way to the ceiling. So I'll certainly have plenty of mountain if, in fact, Turtle Mountain is no more. And really, as I stand in the middle of the room and I pan across and look at everything, I do think that buildings up here in this spot will do more for the visual appeal of the layout than any sort of mountain will. I had intended to talk a little bit more about the 3D printing process, but that doesn't seem to have happened. I probably will get together a video on 3D printing and how it's benefited me so far, eventually. Hopefully before too long. What do you guys think about getting rid of Turtle Mountain? I know some people really like that mountain. I've always liked it, but I really do feel like the layout is better served by adding more detailed buildings and scenes as opposed to a big round mountain. It's exciting making changes, but also scary. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DAGryffyn Hobby.